Check. Let's check in this microphone. All right. If I give a round of applause for our guests here, TJ and Stephen Harris.
Get to our own party, guys. Sorry about that.
I wasn't going to have them stand, but
No worries.
come right in the middle. Right here. They got books instead of the camera. Yes, right there. All right. Thank you for all coming out to the Business of Comics panel. I have my friend here, TJ Sterling, and Stephen Harris, and they're going to introduce themselves and the work that they do. If you can have your book, I can actually project it onto the screen here. But we're going to go ahead and get started. TJ, if you can introduce yourself and your work.
Absolutely. How's everybody doing? Thank you so much for coming to our panel. My name is TJ Sterling. I'm the writer and creator of a series called Opus, Joystick Angels, Opus Dark History, and Shattered Visions. My company's name is Rain Comics, RAE Comics. We specialize in doing underrepresented characters, stories and narratives from all across different walks of life. And yeah, I want you guys to check us out if you can. My booth is B15 in our Alley.
Hey, I'm Stephen Harris, and I draw. Nice. I'm a 31-year veteran in comics. I've done stuff for DC Comics. I co-created a character called Aztec. I did a book, Deadpool Annual 98, which was a template for the first Deadpool movie.
Attention Motor City Comic Con guests. Redemption for autographs for Matt Smith, Group A, B, and C. Please go like.
Wow, okay. I'm an Eisenhower.
Redemption for autographs for Matt Smith, Group A, B, and C. Please go line up.
Yeah, I'm working at Eisenhower title, Washington Homes. I have a co-creator book with John Love right there, you see there, and creator home book, The Fringe, and I've done some Batman stuff, some Wonder Woman stuff, and I'll keep going. I do storyboards and other projects I'm doing at the time. I've done a static book that's coming out in June of next year, the day after that. So that's what's currently going on with me.
And I am the moderator, Imani Latif. I'm the creator of Black Comics Universe, and I'm the one asking all the important questions. So I'm going to start here as far as businesses go. What I noticed, I network with a lot of indie creators, and they seem to have different approaches to business, different business models per se. And I think that each business model is different depending on how you're entering into the industry. So if you're a writer, I think there's a business model for that. Like Stephen, as an artist, I think there's a different business model for him. And can you briefly describe how you approach comics, the business of comics, with your particular business model? Start with Stephen.
Okay. When I first was coming up, the days before email, I would do samples of my work. It took me samples of Marvel DC characters, 4 to 6 pages, photocopies, staple up, put my business card, write down my name, number, and address on the samples, and mail them out to the editors of Marvel, DC, and any other independent comic books that were out there. And I would do this. I would try to do it every few months, but it would probably be like 5 or 6 months, but I'll try to do it often than that. So that was one minute. Still, I would go to conventions, talk to editors, and sort of drop off my samples, have them look at my portfolio, have other artists look at my portfolio, other established artists. Like at the time, my favorites were John Jr., Walt Simonson, Diddy Mazzucchelli did Batman Year One, Daredevil. So those are some of So my ways of being in the business. And I took a class outside of college by Michael Davis, one of the co-creators of Milestone. Milestone Media, and just been rebirthed last year. And I was assistant to Dennis Cowan, another co-founder of Milestone Media. So those are some of the ways that I've impacted the business of comics.
How about you, Steve?
Yeah, in terms of the business of comics, it's kind of interesting. I guess for me, I initially wanted to be an artist very much like Ed Stephen Harris. He's definitely somebody I looked at when I was in college, trying to break into the business. Other guys like Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Ryan Benjamin, huge Adam Hughes fan. Who else? So many artists that I admired and kind of wanted to emulate. And for me, I was like, okay, this was early 2000s, like, okay, so the landscape was kind of interesting at the time. You know, things like DeviantArt and what's it called, Coralflock, and a few other like art websites where you could showcase your portfolio were kind of popping up, and there's a humongous community of people who are growing, getting work off of websites like DeviantArt. And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna set my page up. I'm an art student in college. And my biggest thing was wanting to do an internship. I'm actually from Grand Rapids, Michigan, local. I moved to the New York area in the early 2000s, a little bit right after 9/11 happened. And one of my major goals is obviously going to college and getting my art degree, but also interning with Marvel. That was my major goal. And getting that internship my senior year of college. And that's where I started to learn the mechanics of how comics are created, from how they're drawn to how they're processed with ink and color, as well as how the production works. So there's a whole level of post-production that happens once the art's actually completed. So really, really important, powerful stuff. Lessons learned. So I mean, I'm a huge proponent of doing an internship with an art company, whether it's something comic book related or if it's a different type of art. I definitely recommend internships. And from that point, I started my own comic book company, and that really, really informed, that experience informed how I was going to run my own personal business. And then from that point on, I was writing and drawing a lot of my own stuff. I was doing some of coloring, and now as my business has expanded over the last 7 years, I'm hiring other artists to do writing, to do drawing stuff for me, the character designs. I take internships now. I have people intern with me now, so it's a little bit different and a lot more, I guess you would say, involved process-wise. So, but it's so much fun. I love comics. I think for me, as long as you're having fun when you're creating, it's not really work, even a little bit. It's just expression. And I think working with so many different types of artists gives me a chance to see really how they approach things. I always have the vision and the creative idea, but bringing certain artists on for certain things kind of help enhance that vision. And I work with lots of different types of artists from India, artists from the Philippines, artists from Africa, artists from Mexico. I work with pretty much everybody who's talented and is hungry to be in the business of comics. And I'm still drawing and writing my own series as well, so there's quite a bit of stuff that I juggle at the current moment in time.
Can you explain, this is for you, TJ, as a publisher, I know if you like the approach as an artist, that there's a different relationship with the art form, with comics, and you don't necessarily see it as a business at first. You see it as a work of art, you're drawing, you're writing, and now you're creating this work of art. Now that you consider yourself to be a publisher, that you actually have a company around this, how has your approach changed in terms of creating comics now that it is a bona fide business?
That's a great question. For me, I try to think about everything from the artist's perspective. For me, as an artist, coming up in the ranks, I think as Stephen Harrison can attest to this, a lot of times you get lowball. People don't really want to pay you a lot. They don't necessarily want to pay you on time after you finish something. And for me, the biggest question I had is, if I'm going to be a publisher, what type of reputation do I want to have in the industry? How do I want to treat an artist? That's really the biggest question I had. I said, well, Ray Comics, my business is known for paying people their full rate, paying them on time. not making them wait, or some of the bigger companies, Marvel, the DCs, they sometimes will make you wait, 60, 90 days before you get a check after you've done all the work. If you're working with a bigger company like Image, for example, and you, let's say, have a book and you do a deal with Image, you might not get the residuals, because let me rewind the tape. Image is very similar to like a record deal. You get an advance for your book, for the project, and you don't see the money from the, typically you get the advance to make the book. Once the book is made, and then you give it to them, they handle all of the distribution, putting it in stores, but once you actually get, like, your money back, it could be well after they've already made theirs back, which could be months, might be a year, you never really know. So it's kind of, again, understanding what type of business you want to be, how you want to work. I like to pay people immediately because, again, they want to come back and word travels fast. Like, hey, this person, this company takes care of his artists really, really well and respects them. A lot of times on my Kickstarters, I give higher page rates to my artists once we reach our goal. And that makes other artists want to work with me. So again, it's a very small industry, but it's a powerful one. So hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, no, that was great. As an artist, what is your experience in Steven? Like, from an artist perspective, not only working with larger publishers, but also creating your own work?
Yeah, this is a mixed bag. Overall, it's been great. But you have times where people pay you late, or I was earlier in my career, a company of makers, so they paid me one time, and they owe me the rest of the money for other things I've done. But that was a long time ago. But it's been better now. A way to avoid that is that have part of your policies pay half or a third up front in deposit, so you both take the risk in this project you're doing with the client. So if things go south, at least you have some money that you in your pocket from starting the job. And so, or if you finish it, you have half of it, and they get you there, they get the rest of it to you, they get the rest of it to you. Or they don't, you have half, and they don't have half, they don't have the other half of the project, which is going to stop working, so they get the rest of the money up. But, so those are my experience. With big companies, they have a policy already set, like Marvel DC. They have, they'll pay you once with DC, they pay me, I turn the pages, and I get a check a week or two, then after that, depending on how many pages I turn in. I think nowadays, they want 10 pages, and then they'll pay you for those pages. Every 2 weeks, they'll check waiting for you, or waiting for you. But once you turn those 10 pages. I don't know with the policy with Marvel now. The last time we worked with Marvel was back in 2000. So, but yeah, anytime a client asks me to do a job, I actually don't have one go to the front nowadays. It's been like that since the 90s, or the late 90s.
And what has experience been as far as creating your own work?
Your own work, yeah, so that's a whole risk and scary territory. I use the shows. I use the shows to sell the books and go online. All that I have. It's also publishing with me when I do my own thing. I haven't gone to a publisher. But I have some ideas that are sitting with people who may shout out ideas to publish for me. But you probably need like a literary rep if you have ideas to shop your ideas around for you. Self-publish yourself, come to shows and hustle it. Come out to shows, meet fans, and talk to fans about your book, and have an online presence on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those platforms you can. Twitch, and what's that one? Twitch and TikTok, yeah, the TikToks. But yeah, so get out there as much as you can, talk with fans, and yeah, because fans really like to talk to artists and creators who did the book and did the artwork. So the next thing they like to have, and they like to see the process. So we have a process part in your book, which is sketches and thumbnails to finish. People like process pages too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, one thing. You've already, when I started, versus now, if you have your own book, as far as getting started, with whether you want to work in mainstream or do your own thing, have a book out, either do a online book, trade it up, complete a book, like the version of it, for the shows. I think these throwing the shows and keeping the name out there, your face out there, and your work out there to your fans and record. And if you want to work in mainstream, still do your own thing and send it to editors, email them if you have your email, show your work to editors and talk to editors and different companies. Not small release either. There's many other companies out there, or do what TK's doing, Kickstarters. Do Kickstarters, get your name out there. If you fail on Kickstarter, you don't reach your goal, you have a source of people that will give money to you, or when you promote it, people have seen it, so you get the word out there, get your story out there for people to see.
I like that, over watching the indie community for several decades now. I've noticed that every creator has a different income, right? So as an artist, what you'll notice, everybody who's listening, like you'll notice that as an artist, Steven's goal is like, if he's looking for more work, then there's, like if he publishes, like self-publishing, there's a means to that end, you know, being able to put that work in front of editors, in front of publishers and stuff like that, it gets you to the next step. Whereas, like from a publisher standpoint, you know, you're creating, you're writing stories, you're finding writers, you're networking with other creators, and you as a company are responsible for selling their work and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, you might not have an artist, you know, tailoring a show, selling your book, for instance. Like, it's your job to sell that book. You know, they're dependent on you for their check, so they expect you to be at the show, selling that book, you know, making them a superstar, you know, that type of thing. So, what I learned pretty quickly is that every creator actually has, you know, might be using comics as a means to an end. And in that regard, what you think is more important? Do you look at comics as a vehicle for your, what they call IP or intellectual property, or are you far more committed to the art form itself? Or is this like this, or is this just a first step towards animation, film, things like that?
Yeah, I was gonna quickly say that, to end Steve's point earlier, the landscape of how you get your work out there has changed dramatically and continues to evolve. So if you are, posting your stuff on Instagram or one of the social media platforms, you are gaining a lot of traction, a lot of followers, and really engaging your audience on a regular basis. A lot of the companies now look at that as a barometer of whether your project can be successful, but they want to work with you. So I'm not a new social media person. I've been slowly getting into it, building, getting more comfortable with it as time's gone on. But for younger people that are in this audience that are listening and who will eventually watch this, that are really good and have their finger on the pulse of social media, it's so important to continue to build on those platforms or create your own platform. Now, in terms of your question about indie artists and selling your books and things like that, rephrase it one more time for me, just because
are comics a vehicle to push your IP? Is that just the beginning where you're looking to push it out there in other forms, or are you far more committed to the art form of comics?
Yeah, for me, I make what I want to see. So if I want to see a movie about cyberpunk characters that are indicative of people I grew up with and experiences that I've had, or the stories that I might like. Like, for example, I just came out with a new series called Shattered Visions, and it's like a mixture of The Fifth Element, Deadpool, Judge Dredd, Demolition Man, all these cool movies and stuff that I really like growing up, but it's kind of done through a different lens. That being said, I do make all my comics with specific purpose of entertaining you guys, entertaining people who want new content, and that's my first priority. Now, I do, would absolutely love to see this stuff on big screens, animated, all of that stuff as well. But first, I think about, hey, storytelling and comics to me is the medium that I fell in love with. So if I'm serving that medium to my absolute best ability and something organically comes from that, then that's, is attractive to me, that organic growth. So right now it is IP creating for the sake of the IP, for the sake of the creators, the consumers of the medium itself. But some people do specifically make comics just for film. Not really my bag, but other people do that.
Yeah, similar to me, I came into this with a passion for drawing, a passion for storytelling. Before I was always drawing. When I was in first grade, I was always drawing big one-scene drawings of battle scenes, of fight scenes, or scenes of destruction with vehicles. And I learned how to draw people, and I wanted to, I was on big scenes and I wanted to tell stories about work. I figured either animation or comic books. I said animation is way too much work, so I'm doing comic books. And comics aren't easy anyway, so if I was going to do comics, I had to draw people. So storytelling became a passion for me, drawing is a passion for me, and as I started learning more about drawing, I went to art school, the school was arts in New York City, and I learned more about composition, composing a picture, I became in love with that as well, the hand storytelling, the movement of the eye, being involved in the art, being involved in the story. And so I've always wanted to do comics. My idea was either comics or bust, art or bust. I'm not going to do I wasn't going to do a fallback. I did teach every now and then, but I wasn't going to be a full-time teacher. I had jobs. I wasn't going to be a manager. I was concerned with promotion. So that was my story. I wouldn't tell them to do that. I just tell them that's what I did. If you feel that way, be prepared to have that type of mindset and the consequences that come with it. Because a lot of times when rent was late, bills were late, and stress was had. But that was me. And even up to like 4 or 5 years ago, I still had a drive creative work. But comics for me, storytelling for me, art for me is what I do. And this latest.
Attention Motor City Comic Con guests, after our event, redemption for Doctor Who, please go to the Doctor Who area by Matt Smith's booth. Again, redemption for the after hours event for the Doctor Who, please go to the Doctor Who area by Matt Smith's booth.
I swear I don't know her. We didn't have nobody together.
Somebody in the next line.
So, and this integrated iteration of comics with movies and IPs is great. I love it. And I would love my comics to be part of that at some point. But, I want to still do the work. And I have other stories in mind that would be well suited for IP and a TV, a movie, animation, what have you. I would love that to happen, but in the meantime, I'm still doing what I do and have ideas, have a vision, have a voice, and I would want to put out there for you to see.
Can I add some time real quick? So you have to ask yourself the question, if there are any creators in the room, I'm just curious to show of hands, how many creators in the room, people who are artists or writers? All right, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. So the question you have to ask yourself really is, what type of creator do you want to be? Do you want to be a creator that is thinking only about profit or thinking only about art? The question too is about the soul that you put behind the art. Artwork without soul isn't really art, it's kind of, so I said for me, when you are creating just for the purposes of film or just for something to get picked up, something is lost in the translation because there's this rush, I have to get my project made, but people don't realize, when Marvel was about to go out of business, they had decades, libraries worth of books that, all these great stories that people weren't even paying attention to. And it was really just like Blade and also those original movies that kind of brought that interest back. So, I think it's best to create your own library, whatever that looks like, with the soul and passion to your characters, because that's really where the those organic, powerful stories come from, is that passion, that soul that's behind the work. Because right now, Marvel and DC have so much powerful stories that they can pull from for years, but all that stuff was not created with the intention of making a movie. It was the intention of making a great story for you guys to really enjoy. So, something I just wanted to touch on.
That was great. Does anyone have any questions? I see there's a lot of creators here. Yes. You have a question? Anybody? Yes, sir.
So, when you're new into making like your own comic or something, like even if you're doing both writing a story and drawing the images, is it a little bit tricky to try to like publish the story so that others would enjoy it, even though you're not sure if they're going to like the character that you created in that story or something?
That's the risk. It's scary. This is your thing. You want to know if people are going to like it or not. And with social media, it's even scary for some people because you know your immediate response. You think the loss is trash, or you know, I love this, or you think it's true both. The worst is not to have any response at all. And if someone has a feel, if it makes someone feel something about that's step one. That's something. But it's like I said, scary. If you have a vision out there, you have a voice, you want to put it out there and see what happens.
Yeah,
Whether you're a writer or a drawer or both.
I completely agree with that, Stephen, and just another point to that. You're never going to have a response if you never make it, you know? Why not make it for you and kind of screw what everyone else thinks at first? No disrespect to the fan base, it's like you have to make yourself happy first. And the most important thing as a creator is starting and finishing. Those are the only two things you need to really be concerned about. So make your first story, start it and finish it. And then if you're still compelled to continue the story, or you have another idea for something else, then jump to that. But I think there's something that's really powerful about the cyclical nature of starting and finishing. So please, yes.
No, it's a great answer because I teach comics and I get a lot of kids that they have a ton of ideas. They've drawn out all the characters, they have notebooks full of, they've created an entire universe of things, but they haven't finished. So the tools that I give them are just the tools to finish a story, even if it's just one page, even if it's like a one-page story, 4 panels, 8 panels. Even if it's a 4-page story, like little mini comics, any way that you can finish a story is a great relief because once you finish one, you can start looking forward to the next one. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How will you force people to buy your business?
You force?
Force.
They can't force it. They can't force it.
I like that though. I like it.
You said,
I was going to say, like, back to my point earlier, if you're creating something that has soul and integrity, in the work, people are going to feel that. It's going to resonate with them from across the table. So they're going to know that, hey, this is something interesting, something fun, and it's not just a cash grab, And I want to support something that's unique like this. When I created my first series, Opus, it was really, a dive, because, hey, there were no Super Sentai inspired comics on the market back in 2015. There was nothing. Now it's an explosion. There's tons of them. But at that time, it's like, hey, I'm doing a comic that I like for this, with characters that I think are really, really cool. And I'm doing it, and I think it's really, really entertaining. And I love you guys to check it out. It's more of like a request. It's not like, hey, I need you to buy my book. But it's like, I'd like for you to invest in what I'm doing because this is my end result. This is my goal. And that innocence, that soulful approach of putting your all into your work, loving your work, and then also serving the consumer too. Like, hey, I like this type of story, or I'd like to see characters do this. A lot of times I get feedback from my own customers, from my own supporters, And I eventually sometimes put that into my book, so a lot of times it's powerful to include those messages over time, but yeah, it's always to the effect of like, hey, not begging or not forcing anyone, just like, see if they like it, and thankfully we've created stuff that you guys like.
Yeah, of course, it's compelling. We have a compelling image on the cover, a compelling banner behind you, and a compelling pitch to talk to the customer about what you're selling. Compelling pitch is brief, no round sense, not rambling. I've seen people rambling. I remember I was at a convention years ago in New York City, and the guy next to us, he go rambling and drives us crazy. Being his hand walking his next to the view parties, not parties, neighbors, and he was rambling, and so people were his rambling. No coherent pitch. This is a pitch of 4 sentences to a paragraph of what your story's about, and bring them in and just like talk to the customers real quick, and show the pages in the book, have them look at themselves, and that's what you do.
Yes.
If you could just maybe talk a little bit on the economics as far as how many copies of the picture start out, drop through, publish it, you need to sell, so maybe 10,000 copies for
Okay.
like that. Is that even viable?
Yeah, you gauge, nowadays, with that factor, 15, 20 years ago, you can print on demand. So you can gauge what show you're going to, like this show versus New York Comic Con, or this show versus a smaller local show, or yes. So you gauge, I may bring 30 copies with me to a certain show, or 60 copies with me to a certain show. Other people who know their audience know what you're going to do. They bring more, maybe bring 60 plus books with them. Depending on what the book is and how well you sell the books. So you gauge what show it is, and you order accordingly, and you thank God for print on demand. We have those different numbers that are less than 500, less than 1,000, and you're not tucking them away in your closet, in your bedroom, in your basement, and all that stuff.
Yeah, to your point, Steve, and Steve's point, the beautiful part about the industry now is that you can, so 2 different types of printing, digital and offset. Offset is large print runs in the thousands, sometimes like high hundreds, like maybe 700 or 800 books. Offset printers used to be like the gold standard of getting the most clearest, beautiful printing you could find. But now the technologies are so advanced with digital printing that it's really no difference. I've literally looked at the same book, and to me, there's no variation in color, paper quality, none of that stuff. So typically, when you are ordering smaller print runs, it's going to be on a digital press, some type of a Canon machine, and again, they do a very, very good job. There's a lot of great printers here in Michigan that do, digital print runs and give you same-day service. So if you're starting with a comic book, start small, start with 25 or 50 copies and see how you do. Because I think the bare minimum one for certain companies like Greco Printing here in Michigan is 25 copies. You can easily start with that and just see how it works. I think when I first printed my comic, I didn't know the difference between the two. So I printed on offset, paid a little bit more, and I think I maybe had 100 or 200 copies. And thankfully was able to sell all those, but still was kind of daunting, a little bit scary. And then I was also going to add too that the initial investment that you put into a comic can be significant if you're not drawing it or writing it. If you're paying a writer or an artist, that can be a significant chunk of change. So saving your money, instead of going on that trip, or instead of spending your tax money that you get back, in April or whatever, use that, put it in the bank, wait a couple of years until you have a good nest egg. I think a solid nest egg to start a comic book business or to work on a project between $5,000 and $10,000. A couple of years you can easily make that that, with just saving or putting away whatever big chunk of change you have, and then putting the comic together. I mean, I heard one story from Matt Smith, the guy who co-owns Top Cow, about how they spent $30,000 on a book. Pretty normal with paying a writer, an artist, to pencil the book, an artist to ink it or color it, and then someone to letter the book, as well as editorial and post-production. So lots of different layers, but the initial investment can be recouped over time. Just don't expect it to happen the same day or the same year.
Other than Kickstarter, for instance, where you could possibly raise that startup capital to do a project, what other forms of income do you bring in to sort of like offset or mitigate that risk?
Yeah, that was going to be my next point, so thank you for talking about Kickstarter. I think Kickstarter is an absolutely fantastic platform to start with. Your goal could be anywhere between, you can really make it go anything you want. I think I usually start my goals at 5 to 10K within that range. And that's initial production costs that allow me to recoup part of the investment, and then, or most of it, and then start printing the books. There's other ways of doing that too. I think there's quite a few other crowdfunding websites. Obviously, there's GoFundMe, and make sure if you want to talk to your family and friends to see, hey, I'm trying to build this comic book, I need a little bit of help. I'm sure they would help you put together your initial startup costs and stuff like that too. But I think Kickstarter is probably your best bet if you're starting to put out a project.
Yeah, I've self-funded. I've done Kickstarter, but they haven't worked out for me too much. I mean, I did one time, the last time we did Kickstarter, we had lowered the threshold, and we did a big jump from our first Kickstarter, which was like 2000 with Indiegogo, and then we did another Kickstarter after that, a little bit more word out, and we flew our property, and we raised like 7,000, and we made like 5,000 Kickstarter. We just had the ceiling too high, so when they played with the ceiling and Jay, what do you think you can do? And maybe the next Kickstarter you raise it a little bit and get that successful Kickstarter. But mostly I just use the money I had to self-publish and hopefully make some of the back at shows I would attend.
Yes.
We were talking earlier about how much you're not solely put into a project and you try to coordinate it, mobilize a lot of times behind it. How do you get over that fear of handing it over to a publishing company who might come back and say, I like the story, but change this or that, and it might be a part that you really think is super essential to the story. Because they might be more interested in the profit side of it than you are in the art form. And you spend a lot more time with the character than anyone has. So how do you get over that fear of just saying, handing it over to someone and letting them work on it?
Wow, that's a leap of faith question. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, man. I think that's why self-publishing is so rewarding, because you can do what you want. But there's always going to be that, feedback option that, you either take it or leave it type of thing. I mean, one time I was working with a publisher, and they were like, hey, we want to work with you, but we also want to change some of your covers and some of this and some of that. And, I wasn't having it. So I just decided not to work with that publisher, because for me, they were very nice people. I just, they weren't really in line with my particular vision. And again, you have to stay true to that vision. But if it's a small thing, if it's a small compromise for a big reward, maybe it's worth it. So you kind of just have to weigh your pros and cons of the situation, but also staying true to yourself and the story.
Yeah, I haven't had that issue yet. I've been working mostly with other people's properties, and so it's more of the artist-editor relationship. That's what maybe change this, change that. And I may push back, I may not, because so that's a little different. So the books I've had, I've been self-published so far. So I mean, it may come, because I have stuff out there in pitch form that could get picked up, and we'll see what happens then. So follow me on Instagram, and I'll tell you what happens.
Real quick, I want to ask you a question too, only in this regard. Sometimes I encourage creators, if they're in a relationship, if they find themselves in a relationship with a publisher, look at that relationship as a marketing strategy. And so it's like, it might be that those compromises that you are asked to make is sort of like, it sort of puts you in a position where I can stay exactly true to my original vision and be in front of 500 people. Or I might have to take this hit or compromise and be in front of 20,000 people. And so when you start asking yourself questions like that, then you start looking at that thing that you were so hell-bent on holding on to, and maybe it's like, yeah, maybe I can cut a corner here and there. But I you know, as creators, we're all definitely, like that original vision, we want to hold on to that. But also, I encourage a lot of independents, like if they find themselves that they have that opportunity, and you're with the publisher that, you know, that understands you, likes what you're doing, it might be a leap of faith where it's sort of like, you know what, I really don't want to do this, but if that means that my next book, you know, that I do independently, I have a larger audience because of that hit I took, it might be something to consider. Like I've seen too many times where a lot of creators have an opportunity to be published, and they held on to their vision so hard that they're still, you know, in front of a very small audience because they didn't really, you know, step out there and take, you know, and make that compromise. So there's something to think about. And you have a good question?
Yeah, I was just gonna speak to, you said you didn't do much social media until recently, so how did you get by with work before that, and what was the best way that you found up to now that you got to the next?
Yeah, great question. When I first started, I did as many conventions as I could. I did a lot of book signings. I did free comic book day events where I was sketching for people, giving some like, you know, initial comic books away. So everything, because for me it was like, again, I because I'm an artist at heart and a creator, like what's the most organic way I can connect with somebody that's one-on-one. Online, you can still connect with people, but there's still something missing. There's that barrier that doesn't allow you to really get to know the person or feel where they're coming from and what they're interested in wants are. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, let me just organically build one-on-one with people, and then because I have a social media page, it just eventually started growing in numbers over the years, over time, and now I do a lot more pushes on it with paid ads and you know, sponsorship programs and brand ambassadors sharing my work, or a lot of times I will connect with an influencer that is also like a person that runs a podcast. One of my favorite podcasts is called For All Nerds. They do some really cool stuff, and the Blur Without Fear is an incredible podcast that talks about some really, really fantastic comics, and he only really selects really great content. So speaking with them and talking on their platform brings more people to mind, and like, I'm at a show now anywhere in the world, and they're just like, oh, hey, I heard about you on the For All Nerds, or I heard about you on the Blur Without Fear, or this podcast. And so you never really know where it goes and how it reaches people, so that's another big thing. But slowly getting out of my comfort zone is the biggest thing, and now I'm a little bit more comfortable with social media, and I'm trying to gain those followers, because I'd love to be able to sell 10,000 comics from my bedroom while I'm sleeping. That'd be amazing.
All right, is there another question? Yes?
So, written content, like comic books, and digital content are very different. So, have you considered like adapting your written content to take advantage of what you can do in digital content? Like for digital content, you can have 3D, or instead of writing the words, then you can have the words spoken. Have you considered that?
No, I haven't. I just put this straw and put it on the paper and write it. I mean, I'm not saying I won't do it. I just haven't considered it at the moment in time. I'm pretty much drawing, writing, pretty much drawing, sometimes writing, and putting it on paper, either color or maybe at some point have someone color it and print it up and send it out, or make copies and sell it. At this moment, things can change.
Yeah, so Marvel had this really cool application called Marvel AR, and I think they still have it. I don't recall, but I haven't seen it in a long time. But the cool part about it was tethered to your camera phone, so you could literally just hover it over the pages. Some of the textures, some of the art would kind of come to life. And I thought it was a really, next level idea. I thought it was really, really cool. And I thought, oh, this is going places, this is, the next big thing. But I think, but people said that too about digital. Printed comics are going away. They've been talking about this nonsense, this stuff for years. What's going away? It's printed. It's not going to be a thing. I'm sure you've heard about it too. Yeah, so that's like digital's the new frontier. People got their iPads. And people still read comics digitally, but I found that there's even more of an aggressive push for print now more than ever, especially with paper shortages. People are like, hey, this is even more rare. So I want to see printed stuff more than anything, which is, kind of interesting. So we all have digital comic books on our sites, digital stuff. People typically say, hey, can I buy print and the digital? When I do Kickstarters, people just do digital because, if you've been collecting for like 30 years, like myself, I got no room left in my closet. So, but yeah, I think the augmented reality thing is a really cool idea, but just isn't sustainable because that's a whole other ball of wax. Like you've already spent X amount of dollars producing the art and the comic, and now you have to have a tech team produce, the fancy stuff. The what is it, the word I'm looking for? It's like, what's that word?
Programming.
What?
The programming.
Yeah, the programming, but it's kind of like the fancy, it's like a cherry on top, if you will. Like you don't necessarily need the cherry if the cake's already good, if the whipped cream's like, you know what I'm saying? Like it isn't really necessary. So again, I don't know where Marvel AR is or any of the augmented reality applications, but I think people just want really good stories and great art. And if you do that, then that's the goal, and everything else is just secondary.
Oddly enough, I, as a moderator, got to start selling digital comics of indie creators. And what I found was that the comic book business is extremely fickle thing. Like, it's one of the last industries that are very much holding on to paper compared to music and any other type of form of creative art form. Is like, it is very much just like a painter is still holding on to using oil paints and drawing on the canvas. Artists, they're still artists, even though digital art is very much advanced now. You still have artists that are still, drawing on paper, on bristle board to this day. What I have found is that the leap from comics, as far as comic storytelling, to the digital platform, you usually find that in games. So what you'll see is a lot of comic book illustrators. They'll moonlight as character designers for games, for gaming companies. So they design those characters. You see comic book writers who also write for games, who are also writing scripts for gaming, for the gaming community. That's where you have all those programmers building these worlds. You have background artists who they might do backgrounds and painting for comic book artists, but their 9 to 5 is doing that same work in the gaming industry. So what I see, just like, and there have been several attempts to bring that idea into comics, but I find it works best when you have a really good comic book character like Miles Morales, and you find that not only do people like the book, they go and see the animated movie, and then they go and buy the game that has a story around it too. So that's where I've seen like technology, sort of advance. And I've seen a lot of people try to make, you know, this comic book, you know, oh, it's 3D hologram on your phone and all that kind of stuff. But it's something weird, it's like it just doesn't stick. It's like no matter who, and I've seen celebrities throw money at the idea. I've seen, you know, startup companies throw money at the idea. And then usually it's like a 5-year window. It's like it's really hot for a year and a half or so, and then it just disappears. You don't see it again. So, in the last 10 years, I've seen at least 2 or 3 companies that do some type of augmented comic book where you buy the book, and then I think even will.i.am had a comic book company that did that. Like you buy the comic, and then it will show up on a 3D version of it on your phone. So like everybody has been attempting to do this, but it just, for whatever reason, I think the trade portion of the comic book industry keeps paper viable. So it's sort of like there's an artist right now that printed a book, literally printed a book a month and a half ago, and he has a table right now where that book is going for at least $500 to $600. It's right behind you. So the paper is very, very, very much in demand. And now even they're trying to make comics into what you call it, into digital stock,
Crypto.
crypto and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to pull that in, but still people still demanding paper when it comes to comic book art.
You know, shameless plug, I have a first edition graphic novel.
There you go. Yeah.
That we came to so me and my co-writer, in a little while, we came up with a cyberpunk story called Shattered Visions. It was successful on Kickstarter. We brought some of the very first issues here. I think I came with about 50 copies of that up to about 8. So if you guys want to get in on the very first edition graphic novel, no one else has, come to my table after this E15.
B15 and Steve, you're at
B17.
B17. Any other questions? We're running right up on the time. I appreciate you guys coming out.
Thank you for being here. I mean, wow.
Yeah, please give yourself a round of applause.
Yes.
Let me get a picture of you guys sitting up there. Acting like you're talking to the studio.